mark. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. Time for an alpha strike aimed squarely at Mercenary Kings. It's a title by Tribute Games. They were responsible for Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the video game, which was actually really good. Surprisingly enough, one of the better brawlers that I've played over the last couple of years. Never came to PC, sadly, but Mercenary Kings did, thanks to Kickstarter. This game was kickstarted, and this is the early access version, which will be on Steam fairly shortly, I believe, and you'll be able to try it for yourself. As usual, with everything I put on Alpha Strike, this is a show about very early alpha or beta products. That means that what you are seeing on this show is by no means complete and not necessarily representative of the final product. A lot of critique that I aim at this game will most likely be fixed before it comes out, but still fairly important to talk about the good and the bad anyway. And also, of course, explore what the title's all about. So, let's get into it, shall we? Alright, so, this is very much a 2D shooter. Kind of in the vein of Metal Slug. It is designed with multiplayer in mind. It does have online multiplayer as well, but bearing in mind this is an early access version, basically nobody has it. So, I am going to show you single player going in from this one. And as you can see by this score there, I've played this for about an hour 40. Just to get my early impressions, as always. So, welcome to your hub. This is your base camp. This is where you take up missions and also buy weapons. You can also buy upgrades and various mods that you can slot onto your character. And the way that you do that is by acquiring the resources, raw materials for doing so. It basically is designed around the Monster Hunter style of crafting, and if I were to describe this game in any real respect, I would say this is Metal Slug meets Monster Hunter. It's exactly what it is, really. Metal Slug style of combat. I mean, I think you're probably even getting the vibe from the graphic style here as well. Very Neo Geo-esque. It's great looking, actually. There's plenty of people that screw up retro graphics. This is very much the Neo Geo arcade look that really works very well. Animation quality is nice. Overall, it's just a nice looking game in general, which is not entirely surprising, considering that Tribute did make Scott Pilgrim, which also looked equally great. Okay. So, let's have a look at a bit of weapon crafting, and then after I've done that, we'll go into a few missions and show you what you can expect from this title. So I've got to build parts here. You'll notice there are a number of different parts that can customize your weapon, and you unlock more and more as you go through the game. In this case, I've actually got a hand cannon, and then I put this barrel, the steel assault, on it, which supposedly gives it some plus damage from the cryogenic element. I'm not really sure how this works, honestly. The game doesn't do a great job of explaining that, as far as I'm aware. You can see their elemental damage bonus, but it doesn't tell you whether or not there's a specific reason to have that particular element. I have to assume some enemies are weak to that element, some aren't, but it's, again, very hard to say. So, the weapons are fully customizable in that respect, and it reflects that visually as well, which is pretty cool. All sorts of different things. I mean, if I want to, I could put on a larger magazine, but if I do that, then the shotgun is going to lose a ton of its potency. You can see that's what it does. That's its overall stats as it stands. Customized magazine, sight, stocks, ammo, barrel, receiver. The ammo types appear to be restricted based on what weapon you're using, so as much as I wanted to put birdshot in this thing, surprisingly enough, I can't do that. It's a little bit weird, because, I mean, this thing appears to be a shotgun of some sort, but you'll see that's what birdshot would do to it. Bit of a spread on that, but I can't use it. I believe the only ones I can use are large shots, and I could put lead shot in here as well. So that's something to consider. Currently I'm using soft point ammunition with that. You can also customize weapon sets. So if you want particular weapons for particular roles, which you might need later on in the game, it's a good idea. This is where you do your co-op. You can find and host a game here. And you can also buy supplies. Now you can take them in your backpack, or you can put them in your supply box, which can then be delivered to you on the field via a helicopter. In this case, I'm going to make sure I'm stacked up on rations. These are fairly cheap healing items. There we go. I actually got a reasonable amount of money. I might grab some. I've got 3 first aid kits in my supply box, so I'm sure I'll be fine. Alright. So, the meat of the game is based on taking various missions from your general right here. This, I believe, is a story-based mission, capture. There are a number of different types of missions. Rescue missions, that's rescue as well. Those are all rescue. Gathering missions. That's a kill mission, so that was to kill a boss. That's also a kill mission, that was to kill, I think, 8 snipers on the level. Now, they do make use of the same levels multiple times, so that could be something that people don't really like because there's a bit of repetition involved there, and some of these missions are not that interesting. Gathering missions are generally very, very dull. Some of them are almost impossible. The camp makeover mission, I tried this one. I tried for 15 minutes to get 2 pelts to drop, and they never did. Apparently they're rare drops. It was a gigantic pain in the ass. Really, really was. Absolutely not what I was looking for in a game like this. And I think that's the problem with having a game that's based very much on resource gathering and crafting. And it comes down to the fact that you have to have drop rates in order to really support that. And the problem with drop rates, as you might imagine, yes indeed, is unfortunately that sometimes they don't happen. Alright, I'm gonna chuck these rations away here. Apparently I must use shock bombs in order to stun my enemy. So I'm gonna make sure I can do that. Alright, so welcome to the level. I believe I've been on this level before. Wouldn't surprise me all that much. Come on, take your shot. There we go. Splat. As you can see, crits are supported in this game. So, these levels will be used multiple times, and they're fairly large, so they definitely support quite a lot of exploration. They're not as linear as you might think. Some of them are actually quite difficult to find your way through, deliberately so. And the problem with that, I suppose, is that there isn't a mini-map in the game, so more often than not, you can find yourself getting lost. On levels like Rescue, for instance, it can be difficult to find the last target because you don't know which buildings you've already been in. It's kind of annoying in that respect. How did I miss him? There we go. Let's just be less terrible. That's probably a good plan. That can get really irritating. More often than not, you'll see these huts that you can enter into, but it doesn't remind you which ones you entered into and which you didn't, and most of them look the same. Because, of course, they all use the same tile set, so you can end up going in the same building multiple times looking for that last hostage. And since enemies respawn, there's really no indication as to where you've been either, so that can be a little bit of a problem. A lot of these buildings are actually utterly useless and don't have anything in them whatsoever. So that can be a little bit of a problem, and it becomes more obvious on missions which either require you to find one specific target. There was one where I actually ran out of time because I couldn't find him. He was in one particular building. I thought I'd already been in that one. And it can be problematic for ones based on rescue as well. Kill missions less so because it's generally fairly easy to find the targets. They're usually in the places that you would expect. They usually spawn in the same place as well. The sniper mission wasn't that great because I could remember where most of the snipers were from doing that same level previously. So that's fine. But I think there are definitely advantages and disadvantages to reusing the same stuff and having these large exploration-based levels. The obvious advantage on that one is that you get to explore these really cool levels that are nowhere near as linear as you would expect from a game like this. That's neat. I like that a lot. You know, I'm big into exploring levels and finding stuff, and this game is all about that, considering that it's all about crafting. So you can find hidden caches which have all sorts of really cool stuff in them. Grab some rare materials here and there, gather stuff to build upgrades for your weapons and build mods and things like that. That's compelling. It's very compelling. Uh-oh. Am I supposed to be capturing this dude? I guess I'm fighting this dude. Alright, okay. Here we go then. So I've actually fought this guy before. Still need to be a little bit careful with him because he does a lot of damage. There you go. Thankfully my new gun does a lot of damage as well. Now, as much as I would like to say, yeah, you can just totally roll through him, you kind of can't. Oh, damn it. That was not right at all. Making contact with any enemy does damage to you, which is actually really irritating. There you go, you can have some of that. Just gonna wait for him to take another swing. Funnily enough, you can actually leave the boss area, which is a little bit strange. Didn't do that one right, did I? I think I've only got one more of those left. Okay, maybe I can hit him with a shock bomb now. Is that a possibility? There we can. Excellent. And that is the capture. Fantastic. The combat in itself is pretty enjoyable in the classic style. It's 4-way shooting rather than 8. So if you're expecting some Super Contra stuff going on there, maybe not. But very much Metal Slug-esque. You can also, of course, use melee attacks, and you can upgrade your knives as well, so that's always nice to see. You can mess around with that. Got these neat little Metal Gear style cutscenes as well, a nice little sense of humor going on and a great art design. Oh, there we go. Very cool, very cool. Ooh, and I've unlocked a whole bunch of new weapons. That's a trombone. Alright, cool. Trombones can be used. That's pretty vital as far as I'm concerned. Ooh, that's a minigun as well. It's also, look at all this cool stuff. All sorts of different possibilities. This is perhaps the biggest strength of the game. Because it happens to be based on crafting and gathering, you can make all sorts of really cool shit. That's fantastic. That's what we like to see. I don't know if I want to mess with my current weapon, honestly. It's like, recon rifle sounds good, but my current weapon does so much absurd damage. I don't know about that. Oh, look at all the ammo types. Oh, wow. I would love to put magnum ammo in there, but apparently I don't have enough copper to do that, so that's kind of unfortunate. Can I actually put a sight on my thing now? I can. Excellent. I haven't... What? That's... I don't know what that is or why it's there. I'm pretty sure that isn't a legitimate sight. They're pretty much making things up here. I'm not okay with this. This is not realistic. This is absolutely not the modern military shooter I was hoping for here. I need that authenticity. Otherwise, I just don't feel like a man. I'm sorry. You can do all sorts of cool stuff there. That's nice. That's very nice. So that it's kind of like the game's biggest strength and its biggest flaw. Because they've based the game so much on crafting, they also base it on the idea that you have to... That's a nice little reference there. They also base it on the idea that you have to get rare drops and that you have to basically farm in order to get the stuff that you want, and that more often than not, you just won't get it. It's like, oh, I need one more of this, and then you just keep killing the same mob over and over again to try and get it. It never drops, and it's hugely frustrating. That's a problem, frankly, and I think that that could cause people to get bored of repetition. Add into that the fact that some of the missions are not that compelling, because their objectives are like gather or collect 10 of these or whatever, and the fact that you repeat some of the same levels over and over again. And then I think you will find some people object to it. And in this case, I've got to go back to the POW camp. I thought maybe I'd get a new tile set because I moved on to Major. It would seem that I didn't. And it probably means I'm going to get the same damn music as well. I think that's mostly due to the fact that the game simply isn't out yet. You know, there's a lot more to do. Getting the complete soundtrack in there is probably not a high priority. It's not that I don't like this music. It's really, really good. It's got a great style to it, but I have heard it like 30 freaking times now, so it's perhaps not the best idea. Nope. Not going to be having any of that. The game, however, kind of gets away with it on the basis that it's got really nice combat. It's got well-designed enemies. They're a little bit frustrating from time to time, but they're not dumb by any stretch. Even the guys that just kind of shoot at the same head height will jump out after you, and they'll occasionally crouch to try and shoot you and things like that. It's very easy to take damage in this game. Even though it's possible to run around with a lot of healing items, you have to spend money in order to get that. So you are losing out if you play badly, and it's entirely possible to die, especially to some of the harder enemies. And it's very satisfying to take them out as well, honestly. Especially if you hit them in the head, their head tends to pop like a balloon, which is rather sickening, but quite satisfying, one has to say. A little bit of the old ultra-violence. There we go. So I think maybe, just maybe, it gets away with it. It can get away with the repetition because its core components are pretty damn solid. I still think maybe they need to do a few things. Obviously, since it's currently in very early closed alpha beta, there's a lot to change, like the balance of the various weapons. It seems like some of the add-ons really don't make a huge amount of sense. Also seems like the game needs to really explain itself better. It also doesn't have an options menu right now. I'm playing with a 360 pad because that's pretty much the only option in this early access version. One assumes that will be resolved. I certainly hope that is true. Can't really customize anything right now, which is definitely not acceptable, but, you know, we can accept. That's okay. We're all right with that when it comes down to early access titles like this, because they're blatantly not done, and that is said so on the tin. Missed that shot, not so great. So you can see the Gears of War style reload system here. Actually adds quite a nice amount to the game, especially when you start out. Funnily enough, the game starts out pretty difficult because your initial pistol isn't that strong and has a 6-shot reload, so once you get used to actually reloading it very fast, you'll be okay, but there's plenty of times where I took damage because I just ran out of ammo, had to reload in the middle of a fight and got hit, which was actually kind of surprising. Once I got a weapon like this, though, when I can basically 2-shot things, well, things are a little bit different. I'm actually kind of surprised that this first major mission hasn't vastly increased the difficulty level. I mean, this seems to be the the same mobs and the same enemies and objectives that I faced in the early private missions. So I was expecting a bit of an increase in difficulty, and I didn't get it, which is odd. I have to wonder if it's just because this happens to be the first mission, and I hope things get significantly more difficult later on. I think this game's going to rise or fall based on the variety of levels that it's got. I've seen like 3, maybe 4. Oh, I hate these guys. Sodding hell. I've seen maybe about 3 or 4 so far. And I think that it's going to need an awful lot more than that to keep people interested, because they're going to go back into these levels and see the same crap over and over and over again. They're rapidly going to get bored of it. And I don't necessarily think the combat's going to carry it for everybody. Pretty satisfying for me. I mean, I like the combat a lot. It's good fun. Some nice, enjoyable gunplay going on here, but that's not going to be the case for everybody. But again, early access version, not content complete at this time. Overall, a really nice style to it, and I think this crafting system is going to be very compelling for a lot of people. And it also means that you're going to have a lot of fun in co-op, I would imagine, with this particular title. I'm hoping they ramp the number of enemies up, because if they don't, then the difficulty level's going to be absolutely incorrect. Okay. Drop down, grab what's in that. There we go. Totally worth it for a blade shard. That's a fairly rare material. That's what we like. A lot of people are going to dig it, and rightfully so. The guys behind Tribute right now have done an excellent job of mixing Metal Slug-style antics with some really enjoyable gunplay and a solid, robust crafting system with an excellent number of weapon options. I love the amount of weapon customization this game's got. That really carries it well. You also have a number of different power-ups, which they could have very easily just completely ignored. I mean, it's not a case of, hey, shoot faster and so on and so forth. It's a very loadout-based game, but they do still have things like shock bombs and medkits and C4 that you can pick up during the level, which I think a lot of games that have a loadout system tend to ignore, and that kind of sucks. It's nice to be able to collect some really nifty gubbins while you're on mission. There we go. Does the game need a mini-map? I don't know. I don't think it needs a minimap, but I do think it needs an indicator as to whether or not you've actually been in a door before. Like, change that green arrow to a red one to indicate that you've already visited that area. I think that would help people a lot, because the fact of the matter is these levels are 2D, but they kind of exist on different planes. Like, if you go through a door, you go to a separate 2D map, which can be confusing, yeah? And again, like Sonic the Hedgehog, for instance, yeah, you've got to navigate your way through the level. That's pretty much what the game's all about, but in that game, you don't have those situations where you go through a hole and suddenly you're on an entirely new level that's attached via a door to the rest of the level. So, you know, just some minor indicators as to whether or not you've been through a door, I think would be really helpful to people. It would increase the enjoyment level without overly nerfing the exploration aspect, which I definitely think is one of the strengths of the game. So there you go, folks. Mercenary Kings, currently looking pretty damn snazzy as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be on Steam Early Access fairly shortly, and of course available to the people that kickstarted it. It's looking very, very promising, assuming that they can get it content complete. The bare bones are definitely there for those of you looking for a really interesting crafting experience mixed with some nice Neo Geo-style Metal Slug gameplay. Compelling combination, I've got to say. Mercenary Kings, it's a bit of an alpha strike, and of course I'll probably take another look once the game comes out. My name has been TotalBiscuit, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.